So let's look at our mise en place. We have our tools on the right. We have a non-stick pan, a good small whisk, a fish spatula, which we'll get more into, a small silicone spatula, some fontina or some other grated cheese of your choosing, which we'll talk more about, a variety of fresh herbs. In this case, I have rosemary and thyme. I'm also going to add in some sliced mushrooms, diced jalapeno, diced plum tomato, just to give it a little more flavor, as well as my salt and pepper to taste, the TT, guys. As well as I have 2 bowls and 3 eggs for my omelet. So let's get started. So first up we got this. This is a really good tool, for very bendy. It's good to get in there. You're going to need this to help get around the pan, but we'll put this stuff, we'll go over that stuff in a second. Now, first thing I want you to do, to show you how to do, is to clean these specific things. So I'm going to show you how to grate this, but let's show you how to properly, clean the mushrooms. Okay, I'm going to get a moist towel. Moist towel here. So you see this here, you're not going to submerge it in water, you just want to wipe the dirt off. All this stuff is organic now, so it's no longer grown in cow poop. Okay, so you see some of those big chunks there, just get them off. Alright. Colony schools, they have a brush that you can use, which is a real pain in the butt, but everybody uses this. You can imagine doing these all day. So I'm just going to do about a couple more. Okay, so I think that's good. So we have it here, and we're going to cut it up, slice them, and I'm also going to slice up maybe a few jalapeno, maybe a jalapeno, maybe some tomato. I'm going to grate my Gruyere cheese. Gruyere is a similar cheese to like a Swiss cheese, but it's a very strong, has a very good taste to it, and is used always on top of like French onion soup and stuff like that. Okay. So first I really want to grate up my cheese, just have it ready as part of my mise en place. And no matter what kind of cheese you use, either mozzarella cheese, Swiss cheese, Gruyere, you want to be able to grate it from scratch. Some of the best cheese, when you try to melt it, if it comes pre-shredded, it's not going to be very well. So you use this and you kind of go in one downward motion. Okay, not up and down, just really down in one motion. Now this is just a suggestion. You could use Gruyere, Swiss cheese, American cheese, but I'm just making one in the American style so you could see how much we're using there. Okay, so let's get that guy. I think that's way more than enough. And when you grate it, you can see how you get these beautiful long strands of cheese. Usually when people buy pre-shredded cheese, it has anti-caking agents, which stop it from melting really nicely and getting that stringiness. A sign of good cheese is when it's melted, it's getting really stringy. Okay, so I'll put that mise en place aside. Just as a refresher, you guys should remember how we do the jalapenos. And if you don't want to burn your hands too much, make sure you put a glove on the offhand. Okay. Okay, I have my clean mushrooms here. I may put a little bit of tomato. Like I said, you could do whatever you desire with this. And I'm just going to put everything in here, and then we're going to par cook it. We're going to saute it in here, and then add it to the omelet as it's cooking. So this is going to be American style, one-fold omelet, not like the French, which is a twofold, which is another lesson that we'll do next for egg week here. So I'm just gonna take off some of this, just cut it down the middle. All right, so I don't want it too hot. So I'm just going to remove some of the seeds. I think half, I'll leave half in. All right. And remember, use the tip of the knife, slide under, get that pith and seed out. Okay. We're good to go. All right. I think that'll be enough. All right. Okay. So now remember, skin side down so I don't slip, and then in a rocking motion, I'm gonna do our fine julienne. So you're gonna do this with any vegetable you use. You're gonna cut it nice and evenly, and then you're going to par cook it or give it a par saute, so that when you're eating it, it's not raw and crunchy in your mouth. So nobody likes that. All right. So we'll get this guy in here. All right. Okay, let me throw out this bad boy here. That's just some Roma tomato. Just gonna use half of this. I'm gonna wrap up the other half. All right, but remember, same style. Cut it in half. We don't want all that juiciness, just like when we did the guac, because oops, we want to have a nice consistency. We don't want everything too watery, so we take that out. We just want the membrane, okay, or the flesh. Same idea, okay. All right. Always a good way to practice your knife skills when you do bruschetta, something like that. Okay. Get everybody going the other way. All right. So next up, I'll show you how to do the mushroom. All right. Now there's a few different ways, but the best way is to slice it. Okay. Me, I find there's a lot of flavor in this part of the stem. I don't know, a lot of people like to do one of these things and cut it off, but also looks nice. So we're gonna stand it up straight and we're gonna slice it 1/4 inch pieces, okay? Not too thin, not too thick, because you want these to cook, okay? If you feel it start to wobble here on the edge, just put it flat down like so, and then just slice it up the rest of the way. Okay. All right, you can see these mushrooms are really nice and big. These are baby creminis, which are pretty much baby portobello mushrooms. Okay. I'll do this one here. But this is also good for when we do savory crepes. This is a good filling of the mushroom Gruyere, jalapeno. Be nice with a little bacon as well, but we're out of stock. Okay. So now let me get my mise en place together, wipe down my board, get everything clean and ready to go for our next step. All right, so we got our cheese, we got our veggies that I'm gonna par cook them in a second, a little bit of oil. But before we get into that, a very important thing, especially with beating eggs, and this is my little garbage trough here, so I'll just save that other half. You want to be able to crack them like I showed you in the other video, where you're cracking on a flat surface so your thumb could go in there. If you do it on a corner, say the corner of a bowl or a corner of a table, sometimes if you're doing a sunny side up or another version of an egg or a poached egg, that sharp edge or the corner will break the yolk. So you always want to do flat and put the thumb in and kind of open it like Pac-Man. So real quick, one good strike in and out, and you see how I opened it up like that, and these two pieces are like, you know, wonka 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 wonka. Okay, do that 2 more times. All right, if you get a little shell in there, don't worry about it, just take it out. All right, crack, thumb in confidently, put it in there. All right, so now that we've got that covered, if we were doing scrambled eggs, we would season them at the end with salt and pepper, okay? Because we don't want to dehydrate it and make it steamy and rubbery. That's what happens when you put the salt in too early. So in this case, we'll season it Got a little bit of my kosher salt, just a nice 2 pinches. All right. Also take into account how much salt you're putting, because the cheese itself also has some salt. Get my fancy grinder here, get some, I like a good amount of pepper, but just remember we're putting the jalapeno in there as well, okay? So now, this is the most important part, okay? I'm going to talk about, well, we did talk about albumin, and albumin is the white of the egg, and then you have the proteins that hold the membrane of the yolk to the albumin. Okay, so just break up your yolks. These are really good eggs. I prefer the Nelly's brand. They're a little more expensive, but they really have great flavor, so I highly recommend those, especially for baking. All right. I'm actually going to add some thyme. The thyme goes really good with the mushrooms and the Gruyere. And just like we clean the rosemary, we kind of just pull the leaves down in that opposite direction. You don't want to get any of the woodiness in there, just the leaves. And these guys are a pain in the butt. They're a little thin, but I'm not going to put too much. Just want the leaves. Okay. All right. Try to find a better one here. Nice and long. There we go, that one's a little better. Just the leaves, okay? I have some rosemary here too. That actually goes well with the earthiness and the woodiness of the mushrooms itself, okay? You could also throw in a sprig as you saute your mirepoix, or your, I should say, mise en place for this dish, okay? So now, when making a proper omelet, be it French or American, there has to be no albumin showing, okay, which means no egg whites. So you've seen people do this and say, okay, I'm going to saute. This looks kind of like the surface of Jupiter here. You really want to make sure you hit this good. I'm using a small omelet whisk in a little bowl, and you want it to be one uniform color, almost like orange juice, the consistency and color of that. So even right now, if I stop, you see all these spots. This albumin, that's albumin right there. So we gotta hit this until it's completely smooth. You can use an immersion blender or anything else. So just so let's see here. You should be able to do one of these things, and it's nice and even, just streaming right down. Especially when we do, or if you choose to do the egg drop soup, it's very good, but you need a very consistent, very good color going. No albumin, that's the word I'm looking for, I'm sorry. Alright, usually if you're working in a restaurant, you'll have a machine or a hand blender. You'll put, a flat of eggs or 30 eggs, and you just bzz, and you'll buzz it with the machine, and you'll have it ready to go on your station or wherever you're working in that specific restaurant. So this looks pretty good. You see, we came a long way. I gotta do a side-by-side comparison, but you can tell there's no real albumin showing. It's got a nice froth to it. Alright, so I'm gonna put this aside, and then we're gonna get ready to cook our aromatics. Alright, so let's get this guy. I'll start him off on medium-high. Okay. I'm going to preheat a little while. Okay. I'm going to use peanut oil, but if you're allergic, try to use something else. I like to use a little peanut oil, something that's not so reactive, like olive oil is very strong, very overpowering. Okay. It also has a very high smoke point, so it's going to start to smoke up on you. You want something with a very low smoke point, like a peanut oil. Okay. Whether it's a peanut oil, a canola oil, something that's not neutral, like a grapeseed oil, also works well. Okay, so I got my tools ready. I already seasoned everything else. So now I'm going to part cook. Let there be light. I'm going to part cook my veggies. So just a little bit of oil, not too much. Okay. Alright, once it starts to swirl, you know it's hot enough. We want to get a good sizzle on everything, okay? You can start high and go low, you just got to be careful, okay? Sometimes I use a little pan just to guarantee the non-stick, because sometimes over time the Teflon will start to deteriorate, not be so strong, okay? Alright. So I'll let this go for about a minute, alright? So I'm just going to throw a couple sprigs in there, just to infuse. You'll see them here in pan flying up a little bit. They'll pop and crackle, just be careful. This is great aromatic, okay? Always make sure you're working into something. Okay, make sure you have a dish or something. Never just put this on the counter. Make sure you're always working into something. Alright. Alright, so now I'm going to start cooking the aromatics. Okay. And with mushrooms, you want a high heat. Just get everything going nice and even. I'm going to use the same bowl to put the cooked stuff in because it's not cross-contamination with the raw product. And so I'm just going to give a little pinch of salt. Okay. Just a little more of the cracked pepper. Because my vegetables don't come seasoned, I don't know about yours. So just give it a little more love, hit it with a little more salt and pepper. Here you hear that nice sizzle, maybe just a little bit more. Since we're using the same pan, you don't want this to burn too much in. You get some pieces that are stuck together, you know, try to, one of those kitchen fingers. It's good to cut these mushrooms pretty thin if you're doing a mushroom, but like I said, you could do this with, you know, some bacon and cheese, whatever. Try to put some veggies. I know you guys are not the biggest when it comes to veggies, okay? And so we're going to let this cook and come back to it in a couple minutes. Okay. Also, I love making these kind of dishes, especially American style omelet. You know, you can put a lot of things. I like actually taking a ripe avocado and like beating it into the mixture. I mean, don't try this at home grabbing your fingers. These I'm just going to take out. I don't want them to be served in my omelet. Just to get, and you see how much mass we've lost from the original cook down to that. So I think we're about good here. Alright. So I'm going to lower the heat to medium low. I'm going to spread this out a little bit. And then there's two ways you could mix it in with the omelet. If your egg mixture first, me, I just like to pour it on. Just make sure you have just a little bit more oil so it doesn't stick. Get that trusty Pam. Pam is one of the biggest things used in restaurants. We use it for everything. Alright? So the reason is I lowered the heat is that I don't want to overcook my egg. And I have the rest of my cheese here, my mise en place. I'm going to keep to the side. Probably not going to use all that. Okay. I got my egg. Okay, you see how it's nice and one color? Just like, it looks like almost like a glass of orange juice. Alright, but I'm not going to contaminate other things here. I'm just going to throw this in the sink. Okay, and now here we go. So this is about a 3-egg omelet. Okay. Okay, you could lightly move it around. get the sides. Okay. Some people like to do a mix, but that's more of on the French side omelet. You can kind of push this and let the uncooked parts get there. You see how that yolk and egg is going to parts that have already been cooked. Try to use the blade here and get around. Okay, lift it up here a little bit, get that uncooked yolk tilted underneath. Okay. It's nice when you could go to a diner or something and they have that huge flat grill. Unfortunately, we don't have that here. I don't want to even try putting one here with the smoking situations we've had. So now you see there's not so much movement anymore, even though I'm doing that wrist action. Okay. So my heat, I think, is a little high. I'm just going to lower it because if the heat is too high, when you try to fold everything, it's not going to be good. It's going to break. So I'm going to put my Gruyere from one side, a little bit here, not too close to the edge because when you fold it over, you want to make sure everything is hunky-dory. Okay, so, yeah, whatever. This is nice with a side salad or some pommes frites or French fries, but right now we're just going to plate it up on a regular dish. Okay. Now, I like this guy here because you really can get under things real well. You see it's starting to tear. So you want to make sure this is not stuck. All right. Some people may do other things. You can knock it a little bit like this. Okay. Where it's starting to slide. Okay. And it's easier on a flat grill. All right. So with an American style omelet, you want a nice browning effect. Okay. So let me turn off the heat completely. You want it nice and golden brown, but you don't want it black or burnt. Okay. This is the cool part now. Alright, just be careful. And let that bad boy slide down. We'll do something similar for the French omelet as well. And then we'll just try to arrange it nicely. Alright, come on. Try not to scratch my nice pan here, but this guy gets under there nicely. Okay. You could just do one of these things. Okay. Try to arrange it nicely on your plate while it's able to be seated. And let's clean it up and plate it. See the inside. How are no forks? So, let's take it apart. Let's see all that cheese. And that's the good sign we're looking for, where we want all that cheese nicely melted. Let's see. And that's a sign of good cheese. Either pizzeria or anything. Nice melty cheese. Okay? And now I'm going to eat this. That Gruyere gives it such a nice flavor. You know, you have all the nice mushrooms sticking out with the nice woodiness. Make sure to discard that, don't eat that. Like I said, if you had a nicer like flat grill, you would get more of a consistent flip. Or you can use an omelet. When we do the French omelets, I'll show you the complete turnover, which takes a little bit of learning how to do, but it is a pretty cool technique when you flip it out onto the plate. But remember, it has to be nice and golden brown, no coloring, no browning like we have here, the American style, where we have like, you know, our nice, you know, browning, nice caramelization going on. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you for watching, and that was the omelet for egg week.